Hello everyone, I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. This content has to do with the myths of running a successful midwifery business. I've heard many times over the years common misunderstandings and things that people think about when they're starting a private practice, and a lot of fears. Some are legitimate concerns, some are things we can overcome through consulting and doing our due diligence. So this is a legal disclaimer I put at the beginning of all of my presentations. It has to do with just protecting the content. Everything we try to make is accurate for suggestions, but everybody's situation is different and unique. So I always stress to talk to your local experts, know your own rules, regulations, know what myths and barriers are present for you and how you can overcome them. So the objectives of today is to verbalize what are the possible myths present with starting a private practice. Why do they exist? What are things you can overcome? What are true legitimate challenges? And what are just pure misunderstandings? And so I want to brainstorm, because this is the first step for midwives to even consider starting their own private practice, is to get past these fears, these myths, these misunderstandings. Talking about the different ways you can help the midwife practice. There's different types of businesses you can start. I like to talk a lot about self-employment versus business ownership, and really creating a good work-life balance and having the value of a team of experts around you to create a strong foundation for your practice, and how much that's going to impact the success long term. So there's different myths that exist. The biggest one is just the fear of the unknown. Most people have never ran a business before. Most people don't know very many people that have ran businesses. We are trained with our traditional educational system to work for other companies. Even the degree of business is more being a CEO for an actual business owner. It's not training you to be an entrepreneur. It's not training you to start and run your own successful business. And so there's not a lot of resources in the traditional system. We are very fortunate with the internet and worldwide access that you have so much knowledge at your fingertips. Learn from different business mentors. There's a lot of professional development. There's a lot of business training out there, and there's a lot of local resources we're going to talk about. But a lot of these myths are just because people, it's the minority, there's a lot of fear. You hear from the Small Business Association, 90% of businesses fail the first 5 years. So there's just a lot of fear with people with their support network to encourage security in the traditional route of working for someone else. So common myths that people talk about, and this is just from my personal experience over the years, and some of it's from midwives and some of it's from just anyone considering starting a business. I hear often from midwives, I just don't have the time. Life's busy. I have a young family. I just got out of school. I want to get a paycheck in 2 weeks. I just don't have the time outside of working to plan and prep for starting a business. It's a lot. I don't have any money to start a practice. It costs money. I'll save up slowly with cash, and I will start my practice small and grow with time. Running a business is too hard and risky. And then the example I always give is anything you don't have education and skills is risky, and it's hard because there's just not that knowledge and setup. And anything like the example being a surgeon, if we try to do brain surgery and we never had training, we never did our due diligence and resources, that is risky. So we want to make sure we give emphasis on the business training and the resources available to support you to be successful. A lot of out-of-hospital midwives make the assumption if they're going to be starting their own private practice, they have to be on call all the time. And they're like, I have a young family. I want a work-life balance. I want a vacation. I don't want to be available 24/7. And so those are getting past those myths and misunderstandings of what type of practice you can start. It's not just the traditional solo home birth practice you can open. There's many community centers, birth center franchise, large home birth practices. There's teams you can set up from the beginning that will make it so you can get a better work-life balance. I'll make more money working at a hospital. A lot of people initially you may, but long term you're always going to make more if you've got a good, strong, successful business from your own businesses versus working for someone else. the return on investment of your own time, your own systems, your own contributions to making the business go to the next level can be potentially unlimited versus if you're working for a hospital, another person, you signed a contract to exchange your time for money. You only have so many hours in a week. You can't keep adding more and more time to make more and more money. There is a max level. So I do challenge people to think maybe initially working for a hospital practice or someone else, but long term, if you have the right system in place, you can make far more revenue and opportunities in your life by being a business owner. I'll figure things out as problems come along. I hear a lot of midwives just jump right in, start their practices, and do their business planning as they're making the money. They started the clinical practice, and it's a lot harder because you're going to have to fix the problems while they're happening, while you're trying to take care of families versus you be proactive. It's going to cost you a fraction of the time, money, and resources if you plan with a business plan. You make a foundation, you make policies, you make protocols. You spend that 6 months, year and a half planning your business versus you just jump in because you need the money and then you're learning as you go. I don't need any training to do a midwife business. I will learn from experience. That is an okay way, but to me, my time and my money, and I would rather leverage the experts in the community and be able to get myself more successful faster. So there's different ways to learn. And to me, I would rather learn from someone else's mistakes than doing them myself. And I've done that in the past. And so that's where it's really important to me to get past these myths and misunderstandings that I had a lot of them in the beginning too. Assisting with births is the only practice I can start as a midwife. A lot of people don't get creative with our full scope as midwives, and so we'll definitely talk about that because that one is a big hurdle. Midwives think, well, I have to start a birth practice if I'm going to start a midwifery practice. Once I start my midwifery practice, I will serve everyone since there's such a need. That one I like people to be careful with because when we do our planning, I want you to really narrow down on your ideal client. There may be tons of ladies that could benefit from a midwifery practice and service in your area, but are they really the clients you want to serve and the type of mission and values? Because it will have a ripple effect on your practice performance and success. Having certifications is proof that I am competent and qualified. You have to be careful when you run a business and you're doing things. People get a little more arrogant. They're kind of solo. They're doing their own thing versus they're part of a bigger group where there's team trainings. There's more involves education. You have to be more directly accountable. Am I skilled? Am I qualified? Am I keeping up with my continuing education, my certifications? Am I doing the appropriate drills? Am I near misses? Taking the time to acknowledge the safety, because when you're running your own business, you're not accountable to someone else being your boss. You are accountable to you and making sure you're giving that good, safe care. So these are big ones I'm going to focus on in this presentation of common barriers that midwives present to me of why they think they can't start their own private practices. They have dreams, they have wonderful ideas, but there's things in their mind that they think are too big of hurdles they just can't get over. And a lot of it just has to come with education and thinking creatively and knowing there are always resources. If you have a will, you have a way. If you have an understanding of how to present a strong business plan, like the lack of funding, most midwives think they have to use their own money, and if they don't have their own money saved up, they can't start their own business. And there's so many other ways to get funding to start your private practice. The barriers, the business skills, we aren't trained in school. We're not taught that. So you definitely need to take your own time and learn that. So just as much as writing a business plan, it's important to do professional development, take business courses, network with experts in the area, get a part of a small business association, mentorship. There's a lot of potentials out there to expand your business skills besides just jumping into running a business and learning from experience. The initial time commitment to planning a business, it takes time. If you've got a busy full schedule, being a full-time worker at a current job, finishing school, being a mom, all these commitments we have in our life, you have to just prioritize. And so that's what we do. A lot of our consulting work is time management. We talk about, okay, Do you like to watch movies? Do you play on your phone? Do you do a lot of Facebook scrolling at nighttime? How many hours of sleep are you working? What's your day structure look like? We can always find time. It's just a matter of shifting in people's heads of priorities versus yeah, you definitely are going to work hard, but it's one of those things of that long-term investment pays off. A work-life balance is really, really important to me. I had severe burnout in 2017 because I didn't have good work-life balance, and I always have to remind myself and reground what that looks like and when I'm on family time and structuring my business so I can get that better boundaries. So there's definitely some things we'll talk about to make it being a business owner so we can reduce that being available 24/7. Risk reduction, I think, is really important. It's not so much a barrier people initially think of, but it's a barrier that causes them fear, like maybe they can't afford the malpractice insurance, so they don't want to take the risk. And that's the barrier. They instantly say, well, it's too expensive. See, I can't start a birth practice. So we'll definitely expand on those situations. So the lack of funding is probably the number one thing. It's I don't have the time, I don't have the money. I have the dream, I have the idea. And so I always challenge midwives that let's talk about that more. You do not have to use your own money to start a business. If you create value, you show in your business plan, it's profitable, it's going to value and benefit the community. Finding you funding will not be the hard part. There's different ways to find funding. The one that most midwives are familiar with is the personal financing, using your own cash, using your own retirement accounts to start your own private practice. And it's okay, but you start small and then you're in this vicious cycle that I can't really add a partner because I just don't have the revenue yet. You're more likely to get burnout. You're more likely to be available 24/7. It's starting on a smaller scale. And so I always challenge midwives, like, let's look at the structure of what kind of practice you want to start and getting in a stronger foundation of a team and staff and overhead expenses the first 6 months to a year, part of your business plan, and that initial capital will go wonders in the success of your practice. So there's other different ways to get funding. You can get a small business administration loan. I did that with my first birth center, and it was a lot of fun. And it had a lot of paperwork. Anything with the government's lots of paperwork, but it was way easier than I thought. You just go step by step. You show them your business plan. I mean, these banks, they have no experience with midwives, birth centers, so you're giving a lot of education. You're showing the potential lenders where is the value, how can you easily pay your loans back and get the profits and show you'll be successful. Private money lender, like your friends, family, angel investors, it tends to be a little more expensive than a small business association loan, but you may not have to have any down payment with these options. And maybe if that's your barrier, because with a small business association loan, it has to be between 15 to 35% down, depending on if you're going to do supplies, if you're going to do a building, you're going to do renovations, you need some overhead expenditures for the first 6 months to a year. So if you don't have any down payment funds whatsoever, the private money lending direction might make more sense. And you just pay it off a little faster. So a small business association loan may be 4 or 5% versus a private money lender may be 8, 10, 12%. But you can get started sooner and you can use your profits to pay off faster. Crowdfunding is used, but not as commonly. You could do GoFundMes. You can talk to friends and families about your cause, your idea, and they like your mission and they want to see you get successfully started. If you're going to do a nonprofit, you could do donations, you could do grants, you could talk to the community and do fundraisers and different things to get your practice going. Because it doesn't have to be just you. If the community wants this birth center, you could be the director of it and the community directly owns it. You don't have to start a practice if you don't want the business responsibility and all the decision making. Maybe starting a nonprofit that's owned by the community versus you makes a lot more sense. But I like to reinforce over and over again, having a strong business plan to present is going to be your success of getting other forms of funding to start your business versus your own cash. So having entrepreneurial skills, so having those business skills, it's not When I talk and do consulting work, it's not just about creating a business plan and showing on paper that the profits are possible. You are the business owner. You're going to have to hire your staff. You're going to have to know your regulations. You're going to have to handle difficult situations with your employees. You're going to have customer complaints. You're going to have situations where negotiating and positive resiliency and all these professional development things of being a business owner are so vital. If you work for someone else, you're only one tiny piece of the bigger system. You are being hired for a job description and a purpose. If you are a business owner, you are coordinating payroll, you are coordinating marketing, supplies, maintenance of the building, clinical care policies. You have so many things to organize and set up. You don't have to be the one that does every step of the process, but you at least have to be one that's the final decision maker and aware of everything going on in your business. And you need to be able to handle the highs and lows. I always talk to midwives if they're used to getting a traditional W-2 employment job where you get a paycheck consistently every 2 weeks, whether you give 100% or you are really not, you're working part-time, you got some vacation time built up, it's quieter on call, you get the same amount of money. If you're a business owner, you're going to have the ups and downs, especially in the beginning of the reliable income, the ups and downs of the paychecks. All your staff and your team and your overhead needs to be paid first before you're paid. And so it sometimes does feel you have to have more of a resilience and a long-term vision of success versus in 2 weeks you're going to get paid. It may be a little while depending on how you structure your practice. So there's different ways to start a successful practice and learn how to do it. You can read your own books. You can do it by experience. You can have a consultant like myself, and I know a lot of other great midwife consultants out there. Finding a local business mentor, especially if there's another midwife doing exactly the same business you want to do and very successful. On the business side, the work-life balance, the type of style you want, work out a win-win situation, maybe help out in their practice for a few hours each week, work on some projects, and ask her to do some business mentorship with you. Small Business Association administration has those mentor availability. It's paid for with our tax dollars. So the Small Business Administration is a great resource to get started and help with business networking events. You're going to learn from great business owners in the area. You're going to be able to accelerate your marketing and networking opportunities, meet great like-minded people, get your brand out there, learn from them. They can learn from you. There's different business trainings. I know I talked a little bit about the business degree. You can get a business degree, but it's not as much used for starting your own business, but it does help you out. There's workshops, there's events, there's online courses, there's books, there's unlimited knowledge we have at our fingertips. I love YouTube. I love podcasts. I love for years I haven't listened to the radio. I spend my time driving and trying to maximize my time of when I'm out and about going places, I am listening to some way to grow and develop myself. Professional development courses are just as important as business courses. The last one, that's the most common way I see midwives learn to be business owners, and sometimes they're successful. Sometimes they burn out and that trial and error is just too hard for them. So the benefits of having a mentor, either a business consultant or that's specialized in that, or hiring someone that's an expert in your area, is you learn from their mistakes, you learn from their years of knowledge, their tools they've created, their resources. You're going to accelerate the success of your practice so much faster and avoid a lot of those mistakes that someone else has already done. Ask lots of questions, get professional advice. Having a financial planner, an accountant, a lawyer, all these experts that you can utilize to check over your financial agreements, check over your systems you put in place for your policies, your procedures, your income and expense templates, your bookkeeping. There's so many things that it's really important to have those experts because they know the rules, the regulations. They are the experts that went to school and have years of experience. So paying them a little bit of money, that return on investment is going to be so much more than you trying to learn how to do it and only can do it a fraction of the skill level they can, especially marketing. I talk a lot about having a marketer on your team when your practice gets going and the impact that has for branding and long-term success. Different angles and perspectives. We know with cultural diversity and having a wonderful staff with different experience is going to better your practice. It's the same with planning your business. The more experts you can have from different backgrounds, different experience, different ways to look at your business, they're going to notice cracks. They're going to notice ways to improve systems and planning processes purely because they have that different angle of how they can look at things. You want to improve your key skills. You want to be able to have direct accountability when you're working on a plan and you've got a timeline. You want someone to be able to go to and say, okay, the next week I'm going to get XYZ done. And then next week, did you get those things done? Why didn't you get those things done? Holding you directly accountable. Because I think sometimes midwives are like, oh, I would love to start my own private practice. They get excited for a little bit. They start planning and then they fizzle out. I have so many midwives over the years. They'll keep talking to me. I'd love to start my own private practice. They love the idea, but they're not actually planning. And so having a mentor, having another accountability partner is really powerful to keep the momentum and keep you directly in line with what you want. It's venting with someone. Like if you're having a rough day, having someone that really understands. I mean, our family and friends that have run businesses can't really relate and give you constructive criticism. And it may just reinforce that myth of, see, you shouldn't be starting a business because of XYZ. You expand your network by having these great mentors. You create long-lasting relationships that'll have a ripple effect of your success and other opportunities brought to you, new clients, learning opportunities. I mean, the more people you can leverage. I want to be the weakest person on a group or a mastermind. I want to surround myself by the best of the best so I can learn from them. And then they give you those gentle, constructive criticism when you're wanting to plan something or think about something or take your practice to the next level. They're going to give you healthy risk encouragement that you may need because of your own glass ceiling effect you put on yourself, and you mentally don't feel like you can make that type of practice. You feel like you don't deserve this level of business structure. And so it's nice to have a mentor because they can support you in a healthy way and do a good risk analysis of, does that make sense for your vision, your financials, your timeline you have for your business? It gives you more confidence and it increases the success of your practice just in general by having more planning and more setup and more expertise to learn from. So the initial time commitment, this one's always interesting to me because we all have the same 24/7 time. And as you see, some people do minimal amount with that time, and some people you think, holy cow, how does that person do all these things in a short amount of time? A year ago they were here. Holy cow, how are they here? We all have the same amount of time. We choose, do we want to go to the movies? Do we want to sleep in? Do we want to binge watch that sitcom all weekend? We are making our own choices of how we're going to do that time. So time commitment to me, when people say, I don't have the time to do it, I try to constructively say, you're not tell yourself, so you're directly accountable, I'm not prioritizing this right now. And that's okay, but as soon as you tell yourself I don't have the time, your subconscious instantly will never make the time. It'll never be available. If you tell your subconscious, I am not prioritizing this right now, I am choosing family time over XYZ, I am choosing camping, I am choosing sleeping in, you're making that choice. And so we do a lot of, there's always time, there's always availability. It's just a matter of restructuring and figuring out where your commitment level is and how badly you want to get this practice, and long term, where do you want to be? Not initially, because when you start a business, you're going to have extra time, you're going to have additional investment, but I promise you long term, you're going to be so much happier. You're going to be working less versus someone else that works for another system. They're going to be doing the exact same thing 3, 5, 7 years from now. So when I talk to people wanting to start their own businesses, we really reinforce that business ownership versus self-employed, and your time is your most valuable asset. And so planning a business, you want to create systems, you want to create a strong foundation so that everybody has roles, job descriptions, you're hiring great people, and you're leveraging their expertise versus you have to know everything, you have to be everything. My heart always breaks when midwives will say, say, well, I'll do my own marketing. I'll mow the lawn because I don't want to pay X amount of money. And I always try to challenge them. What's your return on investment and what is the value of your time? So time is important, but we also have to do respectful time management and acknowledging, do you want to start a business or do you want to look at Facebook for an hour every night? Do you want to play Candy Crush in one of your games that you have versus choosing to do something for yourself to better your future? So a lot of times we'll be talking about time management and what's their daily routine if they feel like this misunderstanding of time is not available for them. So time management skills, we look at schedules, there's always time. Like, I think the biggest thing for me was I have a pretty busy, productive schedule, but for me to take it to the next level and get more projects, get more family time, get more me time was transitioning from sleeping 8-9 hours a week to more like 6-7 hours a week. Once I did the research of what a lot of the very successful business owners did was they did miracle morning. They had a direct routine every morning to get started right and make their whole day more productive. When you start adding in exercise, meditation, journals, planning for the whole day, you're going to get more time back because your memory is going to be stronger. You're going to be more efficient. You're not going to have those lows where you want to nap and you're feeling like crap. If we're not feeding ourselves well, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be nearly as productive with our precious time. So having a schedule, looking at where is extra availability of time, maybe it's in the morning before everybody gets up, maybe it's after all your kids and your partner goes to sleep, like where is there time in the day we can find to do this planning for your practice. Making a strategic timeline, making a vision board, those things make it more real. The more we can make you passionate about creating your business and making it feel more like it's possible, it's going to encourage you versus you feel like, oh, I have a small chance of getting successful. I don't know if it's going to work. Like the more we can get your subconscious to visualize where you want to be, the more you're going to creatively work on that time management and create those goals and successes. And to celebrate yourself when you have those positive moments. Gratitude journals are really powerful. Giving yourself credit as a human being, that we are human. If you're super tired and you planned at 9 o'clock at night to do working on your business, but you can barely keep your eyes open, being able to forgive yourself and say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now, but I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning because that's my 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours or whatever. And I was going to do this tonight, but I'm going to tomorrow morning, and celebrate. Like you acknowledge your self-care, because if you make yourself last, you're going to continue those habits the entire time you have a practice. So the work-life balance is something that was hard, and I go through waves because when you're so ambitious and you keep saying, well, I'll hang out with family later, I'll hang out with family later. There's a reason midwives have a high divorce rate. There's a reason a lot of midwives' kids feel that midwifery is more important than them being a mom to them. So I really encourage you to get your kids involved in your business. That's the other really cool thing. People don't realize as business owners, you can pay your kids. They can be part of your marketing. They can help you put your educational material together. My kids go on a lot of my home visits with me. They help me. They're going to conferences with me. So we can create a good work-life balance. You're going to teach your kids about business. You're going to have them involved so they can see both sides of your life. And to midwives, like even my birth center kids, we were kid friendly, and it was for the staff just as much as it was for the clients. But the goal of work-life balance is you want to be able to, the best you can, as a business owner, you are totally responsible 24/7 for your practice, but you want to limit and have proper chains of command, proper systems, policies, protocols in place so that the only time they're really calling you is it's something rare, it's something they can't handle, that fluke situation where there's 3 births at once, they can't find something they need as a safety for this upcoming birth or visit coming up. That should be the time they call you on your off versus you're the first go-to because there isn't any resources, there isn't any system in place, because that does get exhausting. And even with your clients, like setting that work-life balance of expectations, creating a team of midwives and maybe doing less birth call and more office GYN, because that's not as demanding on your outside of the traditional Monday through Friday 8 to 5 schedule. So I love having partners and call coverage. There, there's another great midwife, Madeline Murray, that her and I connected over a year ago just with the call coverage. She has a company called Believe in Midwifery, and her and I are very passionate about midwifery burnout, creating businesses that midwives can be successful and thrive. And it really comes down to call coverage. Whether you're going to start a solo practice and you have another great midwife that's going to cover a weekend, cover vacations, give you a break at least one day a week, so you're totally off the clock, or you're going to create a team of 2 to 4 midwives. Even the simple thing of maybe you want to do the births and just take a few births here and there each month, and you add a family nurse practitioner that can help in the office and do newborn care past the first month of life, that can do the men. There's additional revenue streams you can add to your practice so you're not on pressure as much for the call coverage side. Obstetrics is very demanding, and if you're depending on 90 to 100% of your revenue with your practice on birth, your team's going to burn out more. You're going to burn out more likely because you're available 24/7. If we can make part of your business structure less birth call and more other revenues, doulas, lactations, childbirth education, GYN services, pelvic floor therapy, family nurse practitioners, we can add other wonderful women's health services part of your practice, you're going to be able to help with that work-life balance. Limiting the birth locations. Having a home birth practice is a lot harder than having a birth center hospital birth coverage, because you have one location, you can have a few birth rooms that you can go down the hallway, versus if you do home births, you've got to have a call coverage of A, B, C person. Even if you've got a group of 3 midwives, you guys are all more available because a midwife can't be at those multiple home births that could potentially happen at the same time. So here's a few of the tips for maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Play on your strengths, acknowledging your weaknesses, and knowing and that's why having an accountability partner and knowing in yourself, you're a human being, you're starting to get down that rabbit hole, especially myself having a very severe burnout in the past. I start acknowledging sooner. I just let it go on too long. I kept telling myself it's going to get better, but I didn't do anything about it, and it just kept getting worse. So now I start noticing, okay, I'm starting to go down that rabbit hole again. How do I restructure myself, nip it in the butt so that I can get to where I want to be? Prioritizing your time, being realistic. We're human beings. We've got 24 hours in the day, but we're not going to be able to go nonstop 24 hours in a day. So what's most important? I get up early every day, and then by 2, 3 o'clock, my goal is my kids have me and I have family time each afternoon. There's once in a while I work on the evenings, but we can structure our practice however you want. If you want to work evenings and Saturdays, that's fine, but you have to understand it's a lot harder to have that family time. If you homeschool your kids, your partner stays at home, and it doesn't really matter if you see them in the daytime or in the evening. That's just part of structuring your personal and professional life. And that's the nice perks of being a business owner. You choose your office, you choose when you want vacation, you choose how many hours you're working. You are in charge of your schedule, and that's a nice benefit to a business owner versus working for somebody else. Knowing the peaks and troughs, it has to do with just knowing where are you going to have the most energy, where are you you're going to have waves where there's tons of energy, and then you're going to feel exhausted, and you need to do some more self-care because there's some big projects coming up. There's some pressure of the timeline with your business and planning, but you also have to understand that if you burn yourself out long term, you're not going to be able to serve people well. So I have a very strict schedule. I am very structured personality, but I'm also respectful of my time when I'm in both roles. Finding the time to do your finances. When we get so busy and we get on automated, we just, like, I talk to so many midwives that don't have a clue what money's coming in and out. They're like, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm happy. But then you don't know where your inefficiencies are happening. You don't know where there's areas of improvement. And that's being acknowledging and planning with your time and acknowledging, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'm starting to go down that rabbit hole of I'm working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. It's a snowball effect if you're not directly acknowledging your finances, your time, where things are going. Making a workspace that you're happy with, you're comfortable, having somewhere in the office, your break room where it's spa-like, there's a lounge chair, there's nice music, there's aromatherapy, there's opportunities for you to take a break at work. and to structure your practice so you can just separate, tapping into technology, automating your systems in your practice more, patient portals, automated scheduling, resources, having a Google Drive where everybody has access at the same time and can modify things, clear communication. They're going to be less likely as a team to be calling you when you're at home to find something, to know about something. Strong training manuals for your team, anything we can do to make your business system more efficient. When you're not directly at the office, you want to make it very minimal that people are needing to call you for questions or clarification or needing you for additional backup coverage for birth. Adding exercise is just a must. Being a business owner, being a person in general, it improves your stress level. It makes you healthier. I mean, if we don't have the resiliency and endurance, you tend to be shorter with your patients, your staff, your family, yourself. So self-care, exercise, making sure you take care of yourself is so important. Building your networking opportunities, building with your resources, having a job where you love what you do and you're excited to talk about it. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels like a love project. It feels like this is something, because you're gonna be more committed, you're gonna be more passionate. And then that next morning when you have your family time and you get up, you're not gonna feel. Jobs tend to make people feel cornered. And if you're not happy with the business you've started, change the business, change the structure. You have that control. And just being realistic of, we are human beings, forgiving ourselves. I have a life coach that's been really helpful with just that positivity and that creativity, and being an overachiever and having such a high extreme bar for myself. Like, it was that beating up of a good work-life balance and pushing the limits too often. And just be able to step out, take vacations, meditate, do some hobbies, do some things outside of your business are only going to make your practice more successful. It's going to make you a better business owner. It's going to make you relate to people easier. If you're exuberating positive energy out to the universe, it's going to come back to you. There's great documentaries about it. The Secret, Think and Grow Rich. There's so many ways. If you're expressing negative energy to the universe, to people, it's going to come back to you. Having a life coach, having a business coach, having a team of people that are going to help you create boundaries, help you create those systems, help you look at things before they become a problem is going to create a better work-life balance. And then just meeting the clients and negotiating with your staff, the putting good boundaries, like, no, I'm not going to see people on evenings and Saturdays, and no, do not call me at 4 a.m. because you have a question about, is this med safe to take in pregnancy? That's your responsibility, to set good structures at your initial OB visits, good educational handouts, good clear expectations on your website of what consults, what your midwifery care looks like, what your you have a pager you share among your midwifery team, and then your personal cell phone is just like a rare backup if they can't get a hold of anybody in 30 minutes. Like, you want to create systems, you want to have holidays, you want to do vacation time, you want to make sure you get a good chunk of your weekends completely off call if you can, to separate from your practice. So risk reduction is one that people don't maybe verbalize exactly. They won't say, I'm going to start the practice because it's too risky. They may say it with a business side. But in obstetrics, that's something we think about because malpractice insurance is very expensive. We can get sued for a normal, healthy pregnancy, and then all of a sudden there's that unexplained bad outcome that happens. And we hear the horror stories of birth centers, home birth practices that have been successful for years, and all of a sudden one bad outcome, they lose everything. So that is a barrier that I don't hear people express, but it is in the backdrops. It's in their thought process, but it's not something as commonly discussed. And so that's where I like to challenge people. How do we reduce the risk for your practice? These fears, these worries you have, to protecting your personal assets, protecting your license, protecting the business you're working so hard to start. What can we put into place? And so there's many different insurances. And when people say, I can't afford malpractice insurance, I hear that all the time. It really is about restructuring your fee schedule. It's really about bringing in additional revenue streams. Anybody can afford malpractice and any of these insurances and any of these overheads. If you want 6 weeks vacation, you want retirement benefits, you want health insurance, you want all these things with your practice, it is possible, but we have to get you to set up your good income and expense and revenue streams and fee schedules to compensate for that overhead expenses. Too many times I hear midwives say, well, I'm going to charge this amount for my midwifery care because this is what everybody else charges. And then they don't have the additional funds to do all these things to protect themselves, and makes their practice very vulnerable. There's different ways to protect your personal assets. You can protect it with life insurance. You can protect it with business liability insurance, family trust, keeping things out of your own name as much as possible. Sometimes you can put them in your partner's name. Most states, your primary residence is protected from your business and yourself. And this is another myth I hear from midwives. Well, I started an LLC, so I don't have to get malpractice insurance because my LLC protects me and my personal assets. And that's not always true, because a lot of times if you're giving the direct care, you as the midwife are getting sued on top of your business. So if you're being accused of negligence, they can easily, as a legal team, go after your personal assets. So that business sometimes is a protection veil, but sometimes it isn't. Clear expectations of everybody's role in your practice, that will reduce the risk for you, because as employees, when you hire somebody, you are directly liable for everything they do. So you want to hire the best of the best. You want to make sure they have updated policies, protocols, evidence-based care. If somebody does something that's against your protocols, policies, your business is a lot more protected from that employee. That employee will more likely get sued for negligence versus you as a business. If you have a policy not to induce women in out of hospital setting, and this midwife chooses to give them Cytotec and the baby passes away, your policies and your protocols and your training manuals that this employee agreed to, it helps to protect you in the business. You want to be responsible for them having good training, safety, educational resources available. And so just proper chain of commands. This one's really important. For just knowing who to go to for what situations, having a biller, having a marketer, having the midwife on call versus you answering all the questions, and getting a consistent answer for them will protect you, protect your practice. A lot of the patient complaints and frustrations and accusations come from breakdown of communication. So I really stress to midwives, anything is possible with starting a practice. There's barriers, there's myths, there's misunderstandings, and a lot of them are legitimate, but we can overcome them. So there's different ways to start a strong business. I want you to consider writing a business plan, having a great business coach, a mentor, a consultant that you can go to help acknowledge what are myths and misunderstandings. I can't start a birth center because there's no birth center regulations in my state. Well, can you really not? Or are there barriers we have to overcome because now there's not the reimbursement side for the facility side versus what you would have got from the insurance company? So having a vision board, having short-term, long-term goals, leveraging the experts around you, valuing your time. I think that's what's so important, and what we're worth as midwives. I think nationally as an average, we're too dirt cheap for the services and the amazing care we give, because too many midwives, it's a love, it's a calling. They want to be accessible to so many women, but then they're not. A lot of these myths come out where they just don't have the funding to create good systems and support for their practice, and it doesn't last long term. So I always stress to midwives, let's talk about these myths, let's talk about these barriers to starting a successful practice, and how can we overcome them and implement that strong strategic plan. So you definitely want to just look at, how do we become business owners instead of self-employed? How do we acknowledge these different things we're worried about with starting a business and overcome them? You have to start somewhere, start small, grow, have a strategic plan, and keep yourself accountable.